I met a gypsy.
Like one of my biggest fears, man, is being like an old dude that's hunched over, and you know, like you see those people where their body, it just slowly starts to collapse on them.
Yeah, I say that all the time to my close people. I'm like, man, I want to do everything I can. Like, obviously, the sport I picked and the job I picked I'm gonna feel some stuff when I'm 50. You know, like that's just the inevitable. But I want to be as best as I can, like, because I do see that a lot, and it's like, I mean, especially with injuries, if you don't take care of them properly, they show back up. That's for sure. So that's kind of like something right now that I've always kind of been the guy that like I'll do whatever it takes to be back on the bike. Like, I want to race. If I could, I'd race these last 5 rounds outdoors right now. Like, I would do anything I could. But I've learned too that it's like I've rushed injuries before. I think probably every racer has, and it just never ever works out. Like, it never works out for the better. Obviously, if you're in a situation where you need to ride through an injury, like, that's something different. But that's why this thing with my knee right now, like, even, you know, my upper management and you know, my bosses, they're super adamant about, like, get that thing right. Like, you know, we want to be good when we need to be good. So that's part of honestly having good people around you too, because it's nice to be able to have people on the same page or working for your best interests. Like, that's the biggest thing.
So we touched on Dr.G. I feel like a lot of people listening to this would have heard of Dr.G and know Dr.G, but why do so many people go to and use Dr.G, in your opinion?
Honestly, I think that the real reason is because, like, it only takes one time for you to have something that you don't feel like is fixable in a very short amount of time, and somehow he can always make it, like, happen. And for me, my first experience with Dr. G was 2017. I filled in for Geico for the end of Supercross season, and then I had the full season of outdoors, and I just had come out to California. My first time out here, I raced Glen Helen, and then I was getting ready to race. It would have been I raced Hangtown, and then raced Glen Helen, and then the Tuesday after Glen Helen, I had a crash at Paula, like a super dumb little practice crash, and I hurt my shoulder really bad. And Christian Craig, like, I was pretty close with him, and he was on the team. He got a hold of G and said, hey, this kid's going to come in, and so on and so forth. And G straight up treated me. I felt like he would have treated Dungey when he was working on him. Like, that's how he was, and he had no clue who I was. And, like, right from there, and I'd obviously heard about Dr. G all around and saw him at the races and so on and so forth. And, like, he was, like, just down to do whatever it took to get me better. And he was sending me to his MRI people, and you know what I mean? I had an MRI within an hour and a half. Like, you usually wait for weeks to get an MRI sometimes. So, like, he utilized all his resources to make me the best I could be, and, like, he didn't even know me. So right there, I was like, man, like, I want to work with this guy. And I still had lived in South Carolina at the time, on the other side of the country. And then, but now that I live in California, like, I live an hour and a half from G. And there's times when I go to him 3 days a week. Like, and even when I don't have any issues, I go to him at least once to twice a week, just because, like, he does so much for us. And then at the races, that's another huge thing. Like I talked about in Atlanta, I was, after the second Atlanta when I crashed, I was in his hotel room for hours a day. Like, I mean, it was, and then he has to, even now with the COVID stuff, when that was going on, he has protocols that he has to deal with. So he would just make it happen. And, like, I truly don't know if I could even swing my leg over a bike by Saturday if I wasn't working with him the whole time. Like, and immediately, like, and I'm not even, like, full time with G. Like, there's guys that have him hired full time, that are, like, they pay him a salary and he goes to the races or however it works out. And even though I wasn't one of his full guys, he was at the truck right afterwards, and he knew, he's like, we got to start working on that thing for Saturday. And like, he worked on me Tuesday night after that crash. So like, he's just super committed, and he for sure has what all of us riders' best interest. And so like, it's always good to have a guy like that in your corner. And he does some stuff that, I mean, you kind of have to let it like prove it to yourself when you don't really feel like. I'm like, even actually Saturday, I'm sure you saw that I had that big crash in practice, and it made my leg even worse. And I was really super unsure if I was going to be able to race Saturday night. And he worked on me, did a bunch of, he has his machines at the races. He's just got so much that we need and that is helpful to us that it's pretty hard not to, have him in your corner.
And even, like being around G the time that I've been around him, I think there's kind of an important aspect to his program as well, which is just like the belief that he has that he can get you guys back on track. And it's like, I'm sure that there's so much self-doubt that's in your mind about, should I race? How bad is this injury? Am I actually okay? And then you get a guy like G that's got so much experience and that's been through so many guys' injuries, and you can trust that guy. Like, that he ain't a dude that's been around the races for a year or two that's trying to make a name for himself and be a hero. Like, he's so solidified in that in this sport that he ain't gonna tell you. He's not gonna be like, Cameron, you go out, man, you got this, when he feels like you don't have it. So I mean, is that even just like a huge part of it?
Yeah, totally. He's super straightforward, and like you said, like he doesn't have to prove anything to anyone. He's worked with almost every one of the best guys in our sport, and he's super straight up, and he's there to do what you need him to do. So like, even if he's like super unsure if it's going to be possible for you to make it happen that night, he's going to do everything he can to make you as best as you can. And then it's I've asked him before, like, hey, do you think it's going to be possible? And he'll be like, I think it's possible. I do. Like, I think that if you do this, this, and this, you can make it happen. And he's never really steered me wrong.
If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. And to listen to the full 3-hour podcast, search Gypsy Tales in your favorite podcast platform or click the link in the description below. Gypsy Gang.